Hello and welcome. I love anime, but time is precious, and unfortunately, as I've gotten older, I do not have the time to spend watching copious amounts of anime like I used to. That being the case, with a new season of anime rolling around once again, I thought it might be worth spending some of my time creating this video, so that others like me can separate the wheat from the chaff and get some idea as to what might be worth watching this season. So, how will this work? I'm going to talk about 22 anime today and give you a brief description of each. I will then place them in one of 5 tiers, with those 5 tiers being excited to watch, plan to watch, could go either way, likely to be dropped, or dropped. I will be talking about these anime in no particular order. With that, let's begin. First up is Solo Leveling. Its animation is great, its story is captivating at the moment. It seems to be a sort of power fantasy thing. I've watched the first couple of episodes, but yeah, no, it's very good. The voice acting's good, the animation's good. I'm enjoying the story a lot. As I said, it's probably going to end up like a power fantasy thing. So far, its plot is relatively run-of-the-mill, but it's well executed. It's menacing when it needs to be, it's gory, it's dark, but it's not too dark. It's very good. Essentially, we follow Sun Jinwoo. He's a hunter. He starts off really weak, but he gets some mystical magical power after he overcomes some strangely menacing, smiling statue thing. It's quite terrifying. Generally speaking, anime tends not to be very funny or very scary, but it went up quite a long ways to being scary. It's very menacing. It delivers those moments when it needs to. It doesn't just feel like you're up against bad guys. It feels like you're up against malevolent bad guys. Malevolence is something terrifying, not just bad people. It does deliver in those tense moments. It's very, very good. I enjoyed it quite a lot, so I'm very excited to watch. Next up is A Sign of Affection. I really enjoyed this anime. It's your typical romance anime. So you've got the male protagonist, the female protagonist, and it's, will they, won't they, that sort of thing. The wild card here is the female protagonist, the character you're following. She's deaf, so it's a lot of internal monologues and text-based communication. The guy, the male protagonist, looks really quite weird, but other than that, it's excellent. The art design is really good, it's colorful, despite the fact that it's a deaf girl and the sound's quite good. I really, really love the end of the first episode. It's just this really nice, cutesy moment thing. It's really heartwarming. It's very, very good. So we'll see how it goes. The Unwanted Undead Adventurer is pretty good. It's a fantasy dungeon crawl anime. The animation's a little bit lacking. Everything else is pretty solid. It's essentially some guy is wandering around his fantasy world. He's an adventurer. He kind of sucks at being an adventurer. He spent the last 10 years not really made any progress towards Mithril, what he wants to do, his goal in life. He is wandering around the typical dungeon he always goes to, finds a new tunnel, gets killed by a dragon. Ends up being resurrected as like a skelly boy. Then he spends his time going around leveling up a bit and turning into a ghoul. I'm planning to watch this. It's pretty entertaining, so again, it's not the best, but I'm planning to watch it. Next up is Burn the Witch, and Burn the Witch is a little bit strange. Essentially, dragons are real, and 50% of the deaths that have occurred in London are due to dragons. Now, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, so either 50% of the deaths can be attributed to dragons currently, which doesn't make any sense, or there's double the amount of deaths in London, so now instead of say, I don't know how many people, what the death rate in London is, let's say it's 3,000. So instead of 3,000 people dying, it's 6,000 people dying, and 3,000 of them just happen to die dragons that nobody can see. It's very strange. The witches fly around on little dragons. If anybody touches a dragon, they have to be killed or imprisoned or something, except for the witches. They have these weird horned gun things. In one end, they can blow into them like a war horn, and the other side, they then flip it around and sort of shoot people. It's really strange, but it was pretty entertaining. I'm going to put it in 50-50. It could go either way. If it gets a little bit more entertaining, I'm going to bump it up to plan to watch, but for now, it's in 50-50. Next up is 'Tis Time for Torture, Princess. This one, words fail me. Okay? Essentially, there's some princess character and she's like the hero, but she gets captured by the bad guys and they proceed to torture her. But they sort of do like a twist where the torture, instead of being, super gruesome and awful, it's just they bring her really nice food, prepare it in front of her, and she's like, I'll tell you a secret if you give me the food. Then they give her the food. They do this 3 times in one episode. Each time it turns out that the secret she provides them with isn't worth using. It's not enough, so the torturer has to go back. It was funny the first time, and it was pretty good the first time, actually. The second time it was less funny, and the third time it was quite painful. I don't know, maybe I'll watch the second episode. This is going to be on 50-50, more closer though to likely to drop. In fact, I'm actually going to put it in likely to drop. It's not very good. I'll watch another episode, maybe 2. It needs to do something with the plot. I mean, if it's just 12 episodes of her having food put in front of her and her caving, it's going to get really boring really fast because it's already gotten boring. Yeah, probably going to drop. Next up is Sasaki and Peeps. We basically follow our main character, who's some, middle-aged office worker. He's pretty good at what he does. He's not the greatest at what he does. He's just solid. He has a boring enough life. Anyway, he's sort of making ends meet, paying rent, but he wants to buy a pet. Can't afford a dog or a cat. Really likes them, but can't afford them. So he buys a bird instead. Turns out that his bird is a powerful mage or something. And so for the 40-minute long first episode, we just sort of spend time with Sasaki and Peeps sort of teleporting from the fantasy world to the normal world. It's really confusing. At first you think it's going to be an isekai, like he gets teleported to this fantasy world and then they sort of around there. But no, instead it changes halfway through the episode, or maybe like 30 minutes into the episode, to this weird, basically this investigator lady who has powers. So we've got a fantasy world with powers, a real world with powers, and this random bird guy who can do... It's weird. I don't understand it. It's very not good. Normally when an anime has 40-minute first episode, it's pretty good, but this one wasn't. It could go either way, 50-50. At the end of the week, if I have nothing else to watch, I'll probably stick it on, keep going, but again, it could go either way. Next up, it's Tsukimichi. It's the second season. It's very good. I enjoyed the first season. Essentially, the plot of the first season, very basically, is a kid gets isekai'd into another world. The goddess is like, oh, you're ugly! Vanishes into the demi-human portion of the world, and then he just sort of goes about his business. It's good. The second season is pretty solid. It's more of the same. Because I've watched the first season, I feel more engaged with it. I want to see how it ends, so it sort of gets bumped up a tier because of that. It's an isekai. It's your typical isekai. I plan to watch this one, so unless it dips massively in quality, like a certain Shield Hero Season 2, I'm gonna keep with it. Next up is Villainess Level 99, I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the Demon Lord. This is another very bad one. Basically, our main character, some lady, she gets isekai'd into a dating sim. She's the villain. She doesn't want to do anything. It's another sort of, I want to have a carefree life thing. I don't want to be bothered. I want to be an NPC. It's really, really bad. It's boring. The first half of the episode is insufferably bad because you're following the protagonist of the dating sim, and I've never played a dating sim before, but if anime has taught me anything, they are boring as sin. Anyway, I'm going to drop this. Not worth watching. It's really, really bad. Next up is the Demon Prince of Momochi House. Essentially, we follow our main protagonist, some Momochi girl. Momochi goes to her... She's an orphan, so she has never met her parents before. Hard enough life, but her parents seem to have died and left her some house. So she's like, yay, my parents. So she decides to go to the house and is like quite grateful about the fact that they left the house to her. Turns out that the house is currently being haunted by quite a few ghosts. Now, all of the ghosts are relatively attractive men, so I don't quite know what this anime is going for. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a romance or something. But it was entertaining enough. It was cool. It was good. I'll probably keep watching it. Well, it's probably more 50-50. It's worth watching, again, the first couple episodes maybe, to see how it goes. But it's pretty good, you know? Next up is Metallic Rouge. It's a weird one. Its visuals are great. Its voice acting is great. It looks really good. It's got a nice art style. It's very cyberpunk, sort of futuristic dystopian sort of a thing. But the way that they introduce the characters and the plot isn't very clear. I'm not quite sure what's going on, and I don't really know who anyone is. The fight in it is pretty good. It's pretty solid. But again, if you don't know who or why anything is, it's hard to sort of get involved in a fight. Again, it's very high production quality. It looks really good and it sounds really good, but it's a bit of a weird one. So as long as they sort of start introducing the story better, I'm definitely going to keep this one up. So it could go either way. But that might change depending on what happens in the next few episodes. So next up is Dr. Elise, the royal lady with the lamp. Essentially, there's some doctor lady, Elise. She's in her second life, I believe. She's trying to save as many people as she can. It's not very good. It's very, very boring. She's a surgeon. You spend the first episode with her, saving people's lives, having lunch, and then going on a plane, and then the plane crashes, and it's not very good. I'm going to drop it. Blue Exorcist Season 3. This is a strange one. I enjoyed Blue Exorcist Season 1. I watched it a long time ago when I was but a little boy. And then I watched Season 2, and it was worse than Season 1, but it was okay. It was pretty good. Season 3 is not good. The pacing is goddamn breakneck. It's just bad. It just goes from one thing to the next, the next, the next, the next. It's been a long time since Season 2. There wasn't a gentle opening to Season 3, where they sort of reintroduce each of the characters. I didn't bother rewatching Season 1 and 2 before this, so I would have liked that, but they didn't do that. Instead, they just go right into it. If you've watched Season 1 and 2, you could probably keep going. For me, though, having watched Season 1 and 2, it gains an extra point in the tier list, but I'm still going to put it at probably going to drop. It's not very good at all. It really isn't. If I hadn't seen Season 1 and 2, if I wasn't already invested, I'd be dropping this right now. The wrong way to use healing magic can be basically summarized like this. Usato, along with two of his fellow students, are isekai'd into another world. Usato ends up with some ridiculously overpowered healing magic power, which basically, well, I'm not quite sure what it does yet. It sort of heals his muscles as he goes along. I don't know if he's quite immortal, but anyway, it's pretty good. It's solid, its animation is good, its voice acting is good, it's got some funny moments. It's your typical isekai, it's got nothing too special about it, but again, it's pretty good. I've watched 2 episodes with it so far. With it? What the fuck does that mean? I'd recommend it. Next up on the list is Fluffy Paradise. Okay, so essentially there's some woman, she lives as an office worker, her life is quite hard, she spends a lot of time working, and then she dies of overexhaustion. I don't know how she does that, but she manages to do it. She then gets greeted by God, who sends her to another world so that she can act as a judge for the humans there because they're bullying some furries. And they just totally drop that plotline. I've watched 3 episodes and I haven't picked it back up again. I don't understand why. Basically, all the anime has turned into now is a little tiny child goes around cuddling beasts and things like tigers and dragons and birds. So if you're in the mood for like a really simple turn your brain off and just watch a little kid cuddle some tigers, but for now, I'm planning to watch. Next on the list is Kingdom. I love Kingdom, so I'm a little bit biased here. Not enough people watch it. It's very, very, very good. The first season the animation is awful, but the story's great, the characters are great, so it's not one of those things where if you just get past the first season, it'll be good. No, it's good from the start, it's just the animation sucks. They get a budget after that, it's great. This is the 5th season. Each season is like 26 episodes. The first season is like 56 or something like that. It's really long, but again, it's very good. It's a 3 Kingdoms sort of Chinese war anime. It's very, very entertaining. Characters are great. Music is great. Story is great. Definitely worth a watch. Very, very excited. But again, I'm a little bit biased. I really love the first 4 seasons. It hasn't dropped in quality. If anything, it's gotten better. But no, definitely worth watching. It's very, very good. Up next is Hokkaido Gals Are Super Adorable. This is a very generic romance anime. It wouldn't really be worth watching. It would be 50-50 if not for the following things. First of all, the main character is the most NPC looking guy I've ever seen in my whole life. That's the first thing. Super generic main character. And second thing, the translation that was on Crunchyroll was really, really weird. This is an actual line. My first name, so whack. This is so whack. She's whacking down my boundaries. That is a line. And then there's other bits, like in the second episode, the female protagonist eats a corn dog in a very sussy way. But anyway, yeah. I'm planning to watch this. If it keeps up with this goofy and weirdness, I'll probably watch it to the end, but it could go either way. The next anime is The Strongest Tank's Labyrinth Raids. A tank with a rare 9,999 resistance skill got kicked from the hero's party. Anyway, The Strongest Tank is not very good. Its story is mediocre, its animation is mediocre, its music is mediocre, everything about it is generic as hell. Essentially, there's some guy with a big shield. He gets kicked from the hero's party because he's not doing his job right, apparently. So he gives up and goes home, basically. On his way home, he joins these like 3 really young adventurers, and it's strange because he's like towering above them because he's like an adult. On the way home, they get ambushed. He meets some homunculus lolly character. It's really weird. It's really not worth watching. It's very strange. I wouldn't watch it. If you really, really were looking for something to watch, I would put it in probably going to drop, but it's closer to drop than it would be to 50-50. It's really not very good. The next one is The Foolish Angel Dances with the Devil. It reminds me a lot of The Devil as a Part-Timer. It's got a very similar plot. Essentially, there's a devil comes to Earth, angels come to Earth. Devil's going about his business, runs into the angel, and by the end of the episode, you sort of got some like BDSM domination thing going on. It's weird. I haven't watched episode 2, but yeah, 50-50. Next up, Seventh Time Loop. The full name is Seventh Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. Its foundation is very solid. It looks good, it sounds good, voice acting is good. Its narrative is pretty good too, it's very entertaining. I don't like the motivation of the main character. Essentially, there's this woman, she was supposed to marry this king. She dies, and time ends up being reset. And basically she ends up living seven lives, so she's on her 7th life. 7th time loop. Straightforward. But her motivation for this life is to do nothing, basically, to live a carefree life. You know, that's that stupid anime thing that's been going around lately. What bothers me is this seems to me to be a character who couldn't sit still if you paid her to. She spends 6 of her lives doing all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, from like becoming a fantastic merchant to becoming a doctor and saving people's lives, becoming a maid. Very time-consuming things. She strikes me as a particularly conscientious person. I don't think she could stay still for very long, so the motivation seems stupid to me, but it's a solid anime. I plan to watch this one, so unless it dips massively in quality, I'll keep it going all the way through. But yeah, no, I plan to watch it. Next up is Cherry Magic! 30 years of virginity can make you a wizard! Essentially, it's a generic romance anime, but the twist in this one is instead of like the male protagonist and the female protagonist, it's a gay guy and an ambiguously gay guy. What makes it entertaining is, one, the shift from that. It makes it a lot more interesting to watch. And the other thing is, the main character, the guy we're following, it's not really clear whether he's gay or not. It's either that he's gay, but doesn't like the guy. He's in the closet, you know, so maybe he does like the guy, but, you know, he's in the closet, so he's, you know, express it. He's either not gay, or it might be the case that the guy who's attracted to him is so attractive that he turns straight guys gay. If it keeps up this novelty all the way through, it's definitely worth watching. I'll probably keep watching it. So I'm going to put it in 50-50 for now, but depending on how it plays with the theme and the novelty of it being 2 gay guys in the romance as opposed to a man and a woman, it could be pushed up to plan to watch. Next up is Sengoku Youko. Sengoku Youko. It's pretty good. It's a period piece, so it's set in like feudal Japan, so you know, samurai and that sort of thing. So if you like samurais, if you like katanas, you know, it'll do. But it's got that sort of mystical fantasy element mixed into it. So you've got sort of mystical characters and whatnot and weird monster things. It's pretty good. It's solid. I'm probably going to keep watching it. I'm going to put it in plan to watch. Closer to 50-50 than excited. It's pretty good. It's funny enough. I had a few sharp exhales from my nose, which was good. You know, that's more than you can say for a lot of anime. So, you know. But yeah, no. Probably going to keep watching this one. Plan to watch. A Tale of Wedding Rings is interesting. So essentially, there's a guy, some random girl and her old man friend person comes to Earth, and this guy meets them. He ends up being friends with them. They spend like 16 years being friends, childhood friends, you know, the whole anime thing. And then she goes back to her world and he jumps in with her. Essentially, she's a princess for another world, some kingdom. And she's got 2 rings, and whoever she gives the ring to gets some superpowers. She gives the ring to him. The animation's, you know, it's fine. The art's fine. Everything's fine. It's 50-50. I don't know if I'll keep watching it, but it's okay for now. Well, that's it. 22 anime. Hopefully you enjoyed. I'm glad you did. If you did, I hope you did. Anyway, I don't know how you managed to find this little corner of the internet. but I'm glad you did, and if you stuck around, I appreciate it a lot. I'm not owed any of your time, so you sitting around to watch this video and have me ramble about anime, it's worth a lot, you know, it means a lot to me. If you want to leave a comment or a like, or even, dare I say, subscribe, it would be even more appreciated. You know, if I should be so lucky, maybe you'll do all three. But until next time, I suppose I shall maybe see you later, or not. Anyway, bye-bye.